Alright, today we're going to go ahead and learn about graphic arts through American history. We'll go ahead and start with the Baroque era. The Baroque era started around 1600 in Rome, and it eventually spread through the majority of Europe and therefore reaching through to the United States. Its defining characteristics are really an emphasis on light, the effects of lighting, and theatrical settings in some sort of attempt to imply movement through the picture. You can see in this photo there's very high contrast between the lights and the darks, and there's a lot going on. It's really trying to get that movement that the artist was trying to represent. The Baroque era finally ended around 1725 and actually led way to the neoclassical movement. Neoclassical was really a response to the overly gaudy and decorative styles of the Rococo and Baroque era characteristics. So the primary belief in neoclassical era was that art should really express ideal virtues in life to improve the viewer by imparting some sort of message to them. Architecture was based on the virtues of those from ancient Greece and Rome, just kind of based on simplicity, symmetry, and mathematics. You can see these characteristics expressed in the statue on the right, just kind of bringing it back to the ideal ancient Greek, ancient Rome sort of style. Just trying to bring that back, which was better than the more gaudy Baroque era characteristics of really showing off and having lots of stuff going on. This all led to the Romanticism era in the late 1700s that was really focused on the struggles of freedom and equality. Painters were using current events to showcase the atrocities and really show injustices in the dramatic compositions. Individuality and subjectivity, they were embraced to counteract the previous era's excessive insistence on logical thought, which stifled the individual and made everybody kind of look similar to each other. So kind of standing out as individuals in this era was a very important part of its characteristics. The Romanticism era began in 1830 and lasted for about 50 years, and it's considered the beginning of modern art. It really began the understanding that everyday life and everything around you is suitable subjects. Realism embraced the progressive aims of modernism and pushed for the truth through re-examination of traditional values, systems, and beliefs. Demonstrating things like everyday life often led to ugly depictions of life's unpleasant moments. They often used dark, earthly palettes, and you can see this picture on the left here is a great example of that, where they are just trying to show what real life is, that not everything has to be a model or an angel in order to paint it, that everything around us really is suitable for being a subject. Following realism, Impressionism began to take hold, and this era is characterized by lighter palettes instead of the dark, kind of scary palettes of before. And they really tried to use light brushwork in order to abandon the traditional linear perspective, breaking down the borders between lesser art and higher art, which really focused on clarity on the high end. And due to this, Impressionism era art generally has an unfinished or incomplete quality, and the focus on non-ideal subjects that lacked form and symmetry also became a main staple of the era, as seen in this picture to the right. Expressionism began towards the beginning of the 20th century, and it's really characterized by the thought that art comes from within an artist. It doesn't have to have a real world subject. They can use anything that they can think of, and this art often used swaying and swirling brushstrokes, really meant to convey the emotional state of the artist who was grappling with the anxieties of the modern world. And this picture, the scream, is a well-known example of that. Abstract art came to New York in the early 1900s, and this was really due to a lot of the political instability in Europe at the time. These artists were really influenced by Surrealism, which focused on digging into the unconscious and what was grounded through personal experience. They really became integrated into American society during this time, just due to the fact that of the suffering economy. They were welcomed as the first authentic American artists, and they were praised with capturing part of the American spirit. After World War II, the pop art movement began, And this was really creating a lot of pictures, sculptures, paintings of just mass culture objects and media stars. The pop art movement aims to blur the boundaries between high art and low culture, and the concept that there is no hierarchy of culture, that art can borrow from many different sources, was one of the main influential characteristics of pop art. Pop artists really like to embrace the post-World War II manufacturing and media boom, and a lot of artists actually showed an enthusiastic endorsement of the capitalist market after this, and the goods that it really circulated during the time. And that's really seen in this picture of a Campbell's tomato soup that was made by Andy Warhol. The last definable era of graphic art really is photorealism, and it follows the invention of the camera, which was used as a tool in picture making. But photorealists set out to acknowledge the modern world's use of photographs and really incorporate them into their own art. Oftentimes, artists attempt to capture specifically unique features of camera, as such as blurs and multiple viewpoints. You can see in this picture of a McDonald's pickup, it looks so similar to what you would find in an actual camera picture. And this really is the definition of photorealism. The era of photorealism still continues today, and you can still find a lot of art based on photos or made to be looking photorealistic. And that is pretty much the last defining era in American graphic art history. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you guys learned something a little bit about how the eras of art have evolved throughout the years.